Good morning, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance. My name is Chaz Andres, and as always, let's get started with the news. Now, the biggest story of this week is, of course, the pending banned and restricted announcement. I'm recording this video a couple of days before the announcement, and it's going live a couple of hours before WotC lets us know what's up, so I unfortunately can't tell you what's getting banned today. What I can do is tell you what to do depending on what WotC does decide to do, and hey, that's almost as good, right? A lot of the potential standard bannings are unlikely to have much financial fallout. The future price of these cards post-banning is already kind of priced in, and honestly a lot of these cards weren't that expensive to begin with. For example, Field of the Dead, which is the most likely card to get banned this weekend, is already down to just 2 tickets, and Golos Tireless Pilgrim, the other most likely card to get banned, is under a ticket already at this point. Obviously, their prices will go down even further once they are banned, if they're banned, but, you know, we're talking about 1 and 2 ticket cards here, so there's not really all that much that's going to happen. Now, of course, there are some expensive cards in Standard, and some of them might actually be on the chopping block for today. 2 cards I've heard kicking around as potential ban targets are Hydroid Krasis and Oko Thief of Crowns. Let's talk about Hydroid Krasis first. Honestly, this card has already come down from its peak that was right after Throne of Eldraine was released, and I'd be selling this one in almost all circumstances today regardless. See, even if Hydroid Krasis itself doesn't get banned, something from one of these Simic decks is almost certainly going to be axed, and at that point, Hydroid Krasis is going to see less play and its price will come down. I would definitely not sell if nothing is banned in Standard, but if almost anything is banned in Standard, your best move is going to be ditching these ASAP. As for Oko, I just have a hard time seeing WotC banning the marquee card from their latest Standard set. Of course, they tried to avoid banning Hogak last time around in Modern Horizons, and we all know how that turned out. They would have been much better off actually just banning Hogak instead of trying to, fix the problem on the edges, and well, we all saw what happened. So it's possible WotC learned their lesson and Oko's going to be axed and it's going to be a big surprise, and honestly, Standard would be a lot better if they did ban Oko. Don't see it happening, don't see it as likely, but it's still possible. Honestly though, you should probably be selling your Okos anyway for plenty of other reasons, and we'll be getting to that a little bit later in Gaining Ground, but first I'd like to talk a little bit more about what happens if we get a banning in Modern. See, even though it's pretty clear that WotC moved up this banned and restricted announcement because they wanted to do something about Standard, it's still pretty likely that something might happen in Modern as well. Modern isn't the most healthy format at the moment, and WotC may want to take action on some or all of these Urza decks. As always, you should probably be selling really anything that's banned and also anything from the affected decks ASAP, even at a loss, because price memory is really only a thing for the first week or so after the banning as cards taper off, and there really is not much of a floor on MTGO due to the lack of Standard and Commander players. For a recent example, take a look at Arclight Phoenix. Even though it tanked really hard after the Faithless Looting ban, selling right then would have still been the right choice because of just how hard that card has been tanking since then, and the fact that there really is no floor there. So definitely, if something is banned in Modern, stop watching this video, go over to your MTGO collection, sell the affected cards, and then come back and watch the rest. Let's move on to Gaining Ground, where in Standard it was indeed Oko Thief of Crowns as our biggest winner for the second straight week, gaining 8 full tickets from 47 up to 55. At this point, Oko is now just 5 tickets off Arclight Phoenix's all-time high, and honestly, something's gotta give. It's true that Oko is seeing more play in Modern now, showing up in some of those Urza decks, some of the Bant decks from time to time, but honestly, it's not seeing nearly as much play in Modern as Arclight Phoenix was at the height of its powers, and this card is just not going to continue being worth 55 tickets. I don't see it. To me, like I said earlier, Oko is just a sell right now. I mean, yeah, it might keep gaining a little more ground over the next couple of days, but something's gotta give. It's either going to be a banning, or a metagame shift, or honestly just some other card in Throne of Eldraine doing really well and cutting into those set redemption numbers. And at that point, Oko's going to drop in price. 55 tickets is just too much for a standard legal card that doesn't see much play in Modern. That just doesn't work with what we've seen the MTGO economy do over the past year or so. So honestly, get out while you can. Let's move over to Modern, where the card that gained the most ground this week was yet again Wrenn 6. It's gained 5 more tickets from 115 up to 120, and at this point it's been several weeks, almost a month of slow and steady gains. And yeah, it looks likely that Wrenn 6 is going to benefit from whatever bans do happen in Modern, or if not, it's going to do fine, and it's going to hit 150 tickets again this year, and we're all going to be like, oh wow, this card, it can't be worth this much forever, can it? And, no it can't. At some point, treasure chests will come along and tank its price, but honestly, until that happens, it's all systems go for Wrenn 6. Let's move on now to our biggest losers, where in Standard it was Teferi Time Raveler, dropping 9 tickets from 44 down to 35. And honestly, this is another reason why I'm kind of out on Oko right now. Standard cards on MTGO are just so volatile. Teferi's been bouncing around between 30 and 50 tickets for a while now, and there are signs we might be approaching another buying window. It's sorta near its low, and depending on what gets banned today, it's probably not going to be Teferi, but the Teferi-based control decks, or the tempo decks, might be getting a boon once Golos is kicked out of the format. On the other hand, if you take a look at the set redemption chart, you can see that War of the Spark set redemption actually ends today. So yeah, I'm going to be waiting another week just in case. Moving over to Modern, the biggest losers this week were all the Urza cards. It was things like Mox Opal, Urza himself, Prismatic Vista, Engineered Explosives, and it sounds like a lot of people are worried about something getting banned in Modern. I don't blame them. If something does get banned in Modern, it's going to be from this deck, and all of these cards are going to lose a lot of value. So yeah, I don't blame people for selling right now. Here's the thing though, all of these cards are going to gain back their value and then some if nothing is banned in Modern. I don't think these cards are losing value because the Urza decks are suddenly bad. I think they're losing value because people are rightfully scared. So, as with all things in this video, just wait until an announcement happens, and then if WotC doesn't take any action in Modern, you may want to buy in accordingly. It's quite likely that cards like Mox Opal and Urza will have nice 10 to 15 ticket rebounds after this announcement if nothing does happen, so I'd start taking a look at those price charts and buying in if you can. Now, the sneak of the week this week is Embercleave, the red mythic equipment from Throne of Eldraine. Embercleave started its life as a 2-ticket card, it's now up to 5 tickets and continuing to rise. And yeah, standard demand doesn't really drive MTGO prices, but set redemption does, and expensive mythics that see a lot of play definitely go up in value. The thing about Embercleave is that it's likely to gain a lot of ground in the next couple of days depending on what is banned in Standard. The more cards that aren't Embercleave that get banned, the better the Embercleave decks are going to do. So I would definitely look to buy in now, and wait for the announcement, see how much is banned in Standard, and if it's a lot of things, you definitely want to go in on some Embercleaves, because it may be the next 10-ticket card. Let's end the week by taking a look at the MTGO Trader sales data over the past 7 days, and as always, this gives us a great idea of which cards are buying and selling the best right now, regardless of price increases or decreases. Looking at overall sales by volume, it's pretty clear that Once Upon a Time has crushed it for the 2nd straight week. And here's hoping you took my advice in last week's video, because the card has actually climbed about 4 tickets over the past couple of days, jumping from 8 up to about 12. Now, there's a chance that Once Upon a Time is going to be banned in Standard in a couple of hours, at which point the price would drop, but honestly it sees enough play across multiple Eternal formats that I would expect it to hold at least some of its value on MTGO and probably be a pretty good long-term hold. And if it's not banned, I would expect the card to keep gaining ground from here. It just sees a lot of play, and this demand tells me that a lot of people are very willing to buy in at the current price point. Now, in terms of overall sales by price, Oko has dominated this list for the 2nd straight week. It sold really well this week, and last week I looked at these sales numbers and saw that they were high despite the fact that Oko was still gaining ground, and I called it a sell, and honestly the same thing might happen this week. We could be looking back next week and Oko is 65 and you'll be telling me that I'm totally nuts for calling it a sell. But look, between something getting banned from this deck or the metagame shifting and the fact that this card is only 5 tickets off of Arclight Phoenix's height, What's the upside here? Do we really think that Oko is going to be worth more than Arclight Phoenix at its best for a sustained period of time? I just don't see it. So at a certain point, you just have to sort of say, look, the sales figures are saying one thing, I'm going with my gut another way, and you can trust either one right now, but I still think this card is a sell. And that's all I've got for you this week. Thank you so much for joining me. My name is Chaz Andres, and I will see you again next Monday morning for another episode of This Week in Magic Online Finance.